as we initiate chaos theory guarantees that we'll play like lightning shots sounding like thunder. For every time in the face that it hits us, we're faster. Well, they should know by now. They see the world keeps trying to shake us. It only waits us. The pendulum swings. The pendulum swings. It's in a beautiful darkness. Only another. It's full steam ahead. Full steam ahead. All about the Betty Express. Misdirected from the start. It's a runaway train. I come a freight train. I come a freight train. In a beautiful darkness, the Betty Express. In a beautiful darkness.
Hello, everyone. We are just waiting for things to start in the, courtroom. Now, we were supposed to start at 9. This judge has been pretty punctual, but maybe there's a bit of, delay as far as, when Brian is coming in and all that jazz. So we're just setting up. I will be doing puppy kitten breaks or trying to have something, as a palate cleanser, because this is I always see this as kind of the price, because I know how hard it is emotionally to watch people who are in the middle of grieving and trying to put words to their loss really does affect a lot of us very deeply. But I always see this as kind of the other part of the trial. As much as I like to geek out about all the strategy stuff, I always feel very strongly about honoring the real human cost at the bottom of these trials. At the bottom line, at the end of the day, these trials represent the worst times in people's lives. I mean, you're not typically ever going to have a trial because someone, saved the day, won the lottery, and is getting an award. These are generally the worst things that have happened to someone. So I always feel like it's part of my duty to honor the real human cost after I've gotten so much, I wouldn't say entertainment, but at the bottom line, just definitely as much as we are snarky and dark humor, it comes from a place of really understanding just how dark these things can be and trying to bring light to it. But it does come from usually a deep place of honor about how dark these cases can be. So it will be interesting to see who comes out to speak for Anna, for her children, for maybe even the community, and who comes out to speak for Brian. I think it will be interesting to see if there is anyone to speak for Brian, whether his mother decides to speak or not. And it will be interesting to see going forward. This is probably going to go to an appeal. I don't see Brian taking this sentencing or conviction lying down. So it will be interesting to see what they are going to use in future appeals as well. I am kind of shocked because this judge has been very much on time. So them actually being a little late, let me refresh, just make sure I'm actually on current time. No, I don't need to see Court TV's chat. Howdy, howdy. Yes, so we are here, we are waiting. I do think it's going to be interesting to hear from potential jurors if they're willing to speak out. What we hear about what the jury thought about the defense and the state. Because I was a little bit on the fence as to whether they were going to go with first degree or second degree. I do think that the state did have kernels of evidence where you could infer that this was premeditated. But I think that they were, for me, more solidly in the second degree category. But I understand how the jury got to first degree. I just think for me, the bar was a bit higher for what the state was asking. I don't disagree with the verdict. I just Maybe it's because I now have a higher bar because I've been watching so many trials. And it will be interesting to see if Brian has those smirks, those kind of trademark smirks and smiles and jovialness that he had with his lawyer, his female attorney. I didn't really notice much interaction with him and his male attorney. I think his name was Tipton. I didn't notice that kind of interaction. So I do wonder if this is going to be an appeal of throw the lawyers under the bus, which I have a feeling is probably going to be an appellate point. I'm also shocked that we didn't get into a lot of the kind of Canton Triangle stuff. As soon as they said Trooper DeChico and Buchanan and all of that, I thought the defense was definitely going to bring into question some of the troopers involved in propriety. So, sorry. The cat's got fur on the monitor, and I was like, oh crap, is that a crack? No, it's fur. I love that I have a squirrel brain. But I do wonder about that, and I I'm pissed off that I think that oh gosh, the Cohasset police did a good investigation, but I think I am pissed off that any involvement of the state troopers, especially the Norfolk DA's division, does kind of taint this investigation to a certain extent. While I think Trooper DeChico did an okay job on this trial, it doesn't escape me that he was able to not notice a whole metric shit ton of child grossness in the Sandra Birchmore case, coinkadinksily, against another officer. So that does tick me off. I do wonder if there will be any sort of also negotiation on Brian's part as far as renegotiating sentencing if he gives whereabouts or any sort of location where Anna's body could be found. I do wonder if he's saving that just as a final act of control or as a bargaining chip. Rather cynically, I think he could be doing both at the same time. The one time I start, early and don't give myself an hour cushion so we can speed through things is the one time this woman is not on time. Some days you can't win for losing. But I do expect it to get very emotional. I do expect Jim probably Maluda. I'm probably butchering that, and some of the friend or one of the friends that was on the witness stand to come forward. We do know that any of the victim impact statements of the children will be sealed because they are under the guardianship of DCYF right now. And hopefully, some finality at the end of this case means that they can hopefully possibly be placed with a more permanent family, maybe a family member. I haven't dug deeply into why the children are in DCYF. Most of those files are going to be sealed, but also I feel like those kiddos had been through enough. I don't want to be any part of trying to, put out any more information any more than they already have been put into, the general zeitgeist just because of their father's actions. So I am sure that there are reasons that they are there, and hopefully with the, finality of this sentencing, maybe things can move forward that were kind of being placed on hold. I'm sure that Brian's parental rights are going to, be affected by all of this, and maybe that's been the holdup. Brian strikes me as someone who would rather keep the children to hurt other people or for perceived gain or sympathy rather than doing the right thing for his boys. And, making sure they have a safe, stable, and loving home. Jedi Jess says, my guess from experience is his mother wasn't healthy enough to take care of them and they don't have other family that could care for them. Yeah, so they're likely with a foster family. And yeah, I do hope that, and that's kind of what I figured as well. I know that Anna's mother, they alluded to she wasn't in a good place with her health, resulting in the trip of Anna to Serbia to see her on Thanksgiving. So I just hope at the end of the day, these boys can find their way to a happy, stable, loving home all together. And I believe Anna's sister's in Canada. So hopefully there are, that. Yeah, it's such a heartbreaking tragedy that these boys went from not only, in a span of a week, went from mommy is missing to now dad's gone. Now we're in this other place. There's already been a verdict, so this is going to be sentencing. We are going to learn, since Brian pled to both the obstruction of justice, which has a 10 to 20 year possible, sentence, and the it's a weird statute, but it kind of basically reads that he moved a body without a permit. But that's kind of their answer to dismemberment and depositing her. That was a potential, had a potentiality for 3-ish years. So it does look like she is forced by statute for the first degree murder to do life without parole. But she did say that certain things would influence her on the 10 to 20 year obstruction of justice. Why is this not? Oh, I had it on
matter of the
mute.
Commonwealth versus Brian Walsh, Norfolk Superior Court, criminal indictment number 2023-0091. Defendant and counsel present in court. Defendants represented by attorney Larry Tipton and attorney Kelly Porges. Commonwealth is represented by attorney Greg Connor, attorney Ann Yaz, and attorney Tracy Cusick. Counsel, starting with the Commonwealth, kindly identify yourselves for the court and the record.
Good morning, Your Honor. Greg Connor for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Ann Yaz for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Tracy Cusick for the Commonwealth.
Good morning.
Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. Kelly Porges on behalf of Mr. Walsh.
Good
Good
morning.
morning, Your Honor.
Good morning.
Larry Tipton for Mr. Walsh.
Please be seated.
Someone didn't get hair gel today. We have a full on just, I woke up out of bed and I didn't give a crap.
All right, I have two motions up here, one from each of you, and I'll address those in a minute.
You are unmuted.
So let me start by, excuse me, taking a drink of water.
I love this judge.
Let me start by listing what the court has reviewed in preparation for this sentencing to make sure that everything you think that I have reviewed, I have in fact received and reviewed. So I've received the parties' sentencing memos. That comprises one sentencing memo submitted, I think, yesterday or the day before, late in the day before, from the Commonwealth. The defense has provided a sentencing memo along with a supplement that I received this morning. I think that was filed yesterday after the close of the business day. I also have received various victim impact statements in writing, to include victim impact statement on behalf of the three minor children from the Department of Children and Family Services, DCF. I've also received victim impact statements written from Melissa Kirby and from Peter and Pam Kirby. and I sought out and shared with the parties and have reviewed various sentencing commission information, as well as guideline calculation from probation, as well as Mr. Walsh's carry and triple I, which I'll talk about in a little bit. And I've now just received and will review, prior to deciding my sentence, a letter from Diana Walsh. As an initial matter, is there anything that the parties submitted that I didn't just now list that you expected me or want me to review before sentencing? Kamal first.
Your Honor, there will be a victim impact statement given by Anna's sister, Alexandra Dmitrievich, and she's prepared to give that to the court.
Okay, but as far as written materials, any other written materials that you are hoping me to review before I impose sentence?
No other written materials, and I just want to note, FTR is not on at this point in time, and I don't know if the court needs that on. I know we have a court reporter, and we're in good hands, but sometimes we've been running both.
All right, I thank you for pointing that out. We do, when we have the court reporter, that is the primary method of memorializing the events, but always good to have a backup, and I see that Madam Clerk has put it on now. For the defense, are there any other written materials that you wish the court to review?
You have everything.
All right, let me just take a moment to review this letter.
So I am wondering if, in lieu of speaking, Brian's mother was maybe encouraged by the defense to just write a letter, maybe understanding how she is perceived. I mean, that would denote insight that this defense hitherto now has not shown. You just can't stop smirking even now, you giant douche canoe. Okay, in Moe's America, the bailiffs have Nerf guns, okay? And forget Nerf. We have the American Gladiator tennis ball cannons from on top Mount Awesome or whatever the hell it was. I can't remember. It was some Chuck Norrisy name. Anywho, at this point, I would like to release the tennis ball cannons. God, what a stupid dumb face. And I get to... Yeah, we're speeding through watching your stupid mug. You think Crypt Keeper or Ginger would tell him to not look like an insufferable schmuck. I will say I like how this court has been maintained. This judge has been calm, kind, but firm, and maintained a real, just a very orderly and normal courtroom. This should be how all courtrooms are, but sadly we have not seen it in all courtrooms this year. I imagine they probably do, but they do, they are there to make sure that the state proves its case. For a schmuck like Brian, we still have to have our principles, which sucks, really. But, we have to, for the grossest among us, maintain our principles. Being the good guys sucks sometimes. We got a lot of rules, but we're the good guys. And at least my mug is covering up his mug at the moment. Now, Brian's mom must have written an entire mini novel, because that's what we're kind of waiting on right now. It does seem that the defense did wait until just now to get the, I guess, character witness letter from Brian Walsh's mother to the judge. Yes, the justice that the worst of us get is the justice that the rest of us get. Lorax. He was very wise. Don't look at us. We don't want to look at you. Look, not even your new prison husband wants to look at you. That's why he has you, turn around. Oh, I am sure it has tones of Adelson and Sarah Boone in it. Is that a Kabbalah string he's wearing? The red string? Has he started learning Kabbalah? I have alluded to it. She was basically funding their life. She was the source for all of Brian's sort of money. She
All right.
was paying rent.
Thank you. Let's start with the Commonwealth's presentation of whatever victim impact statements that you...
The Commonwealth would ask Alexandra Dmitrovic to address the court. Would you like her at the witness stand or from the podium?
In the witness stand.
Thank you, Your Honor.
This is Anna's sister. This is probably going to be heartbreaking, but there are real human tragedies involved in these trials, and that's what we honor here. To be able to sit with someone and honor their pain and grief by just sitting and listening is sometimes the greatest gift you can give. So that's what we do here today.
Good morning, Your Honor.
Good morning. You may be seated.
Thank you. Thank you. Good morning, Your Honor. Good morning, everyone. My name is Alexandra Dmitrievich, and I'm the sister of Anna Walshe. I am here today to represent myself and my mother. I want to share with the court how losing my sister in January 2023 has forever changed our lives and left us with an unbearable emptiness. Losing my sister Anna so unexpectedly has altered our world in ways we never imagined. Anna was not just my sister. She was someone I grew up with, someone who knew me in ways no one else ever will. I struggle with the grief that comes without warning, hoping every morning that this is all just a terrible dream. The most painful part of this loss is knowing her children must now grow up without their mother's hand to hold. They now face a lifetime of milestones, big and small, where her absence will be deeply and painfully felt. This tragedy has also devastated my mother. She has developed severe depression and chronic exhaustion. Every single day, she carries the weight of losing her daughter. Our entire family is still learning how to live with this emptiness. Holidays and birthdays are now silent reminders of her absence. Because of the circumstances of my sister's death, we were denied the opportunity to say a final goodbye and to observe our customs, adding a layer of profound, unfinished grief to our loss. Anna was a mother, a daughter, a sister, and a friend. Her life was unfairly taken. We miss her beyond words. While we recognize that no sentence can bring her back, we ask the court to consider the permanent, long-lasting impact this loss has had on our family, especially her children. We stand in agreement with the Commonwealth and their recommendations. Finally, I would like to extend our deepest gratitude to the investigators, the Commonwealth's office, and everyone who has worked tirelessly on this case. Your dedication to seeking justice for my sister has provided our family with a sense of support during our darkest hours. Your Honor, thank you for allowing me the opportunity to share the full weight of this incomprehensible act. Anna will never be forgotten. We will carry her light and her memory with us forever. Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Thank you. Yeah. Thank you. Yes. Sorry.
And hey, you political slacktivists, you guys want to talk about bravery? To stand up and to put words to a hole in your universe, the event that took gravity out of your world, to stand in front of the man or sit in front of the man and make eye contact with the man that took your sister, your nephew's mother, away from them. That is powerful. That is strength to power. That is bravery. Screw Marvel heroes. That is some hero shit right there. You want to look at real life bravery? That's it. That's being scared to death, at paper shaking, and still making eye contact with that schmuck. And he could not wipe that
Your Honor,
stupid...
we have no other victim impact statements other than the ones that we've submitted in writing.
All right, thank you. All right,
I like that this...
I have read the,
I like that this judge is taking time to let that statement marinate. You know, I will say I have just been, this has been a terrible case, but really this judge, the way, as much as the defense's theory was ridiculous, the way that both the state and defense were able to streamline this trial, this has been procedurally a really good trial to kind of end the year on.
Commonwealth sentencing recommendation, the written recommendation, but I'll have you state it on the record.
Thank you, Your Honor. The Commonwealth is requesting that the defendant be sentenced to a series of consecutive sentences on the charges to run from and after his federal case, in which he received a sentence of 37 months in February of 2024. The first charge that the Commonwealth would seek an incarceration component on is count 003, and that the defendant be sentenced to 2.5 to 3 years. The second charge would be that he, on the misleading 002, to run from and after 003, that he receive a sentence of 18 to 20 years. And that the third charge, the murder, in the first degree, that the defendant be sentenced to life without the possibility of parole to run from and after 003 and 002. And Your Honor, if I may be heard in our argument.
Please.
Thank you, Your Honor. When you look at the facts of these three charges, each one calls for a harsh penalty. If you look at the illegal conveyance of a body, the defendant did not just, the person that he illegally conveyed was his wife and the mother of his 3 children. And he did it by removing her remains from the family home and placing them in buckets, in garbage bags, in dumpsters around the Commonwealth. He denied, as you just heard, her family the opportunity to have any customs or burial. There is no grave, there is no memorial. And he did this all in an effort to destroy evidence. On the misleading component, Your Honor, while we do mention the potential of probation, we put that in there only as data so that you understand the efforts that went in to trying to find Anna based on the defendant's series of lies. These lies were all done in an effort to cover up his crime and destroy evidence. We're also, while we put in that, we are not seeking a probation sentence, but we put it in there so that the court, if it wanted to contemplate one, understood there was an option to do it that would prevent the defendant potentially from trying to profit from this.
So the only mechanism for me, as I see it anyway, the only mechanism for me under the restrictions of state law,
Yes, Your Honor.
it's an either-or situation. That is, either I incarcerate him for an additional period of time, either concurrent or consecutive, or I put him on probation following the life sentence, or maybe it even starts today. But the only way that restitution can be achieved on count 2 is through a probationary sentence. So I don't think there's any other mechanism for me doing that. So I don't know how you achieve that goal if without a probationary sentence and mandating it as a condition of probation. And so I want the Commonwealth to be clear with me. You're making note of it in passing, but you are not asking me to put him on a probationary sentence. Is that correct?
We are not, Your Honor. It is data that you can use in order to determine the scope of his lies in which the police relied on them. And you can see the costs that went into investigating the disappearance of Anna Walshe, but we are not asking for probation on this matter.
And the same question with regard to the issue of restitution that I heard rumblings of yesterday.
Yes, Your Honor.
Same result?
Same result. It is, again, it's data for you in determining your sentence, but we are not asking for it.
All right, just wanted to be clear on that.
Thank you, Your Honor. And then on the murder, again, this was the murder of his wife and the mother of his 3 children. And the cover-up of this murder, Your Honor, deserves some analysis. If you look at the first internet search, which occurred at approximately 4:52 a.m. on the 1st, how to dispose of a body, and how they evolve into eventually 11:24 a.m., how to dispose of body parts after a murder, it appears the defendant at this point in time is committed to getting rid of evidence of the crime. And it leads to the shopping sprees later on that night at Lowe's and CVS and Stop and Shop.
Well, I guess so. What I'm gathering, and I'm not a lawyer, so feel free to hop over to Emily D. Baker because she might be able to get you the nitty gritty. What it seems like, based on state law statutes, in order for the state to go after Brian for restitution based on the crimes that he already pled guilty to, the judge has to sentence him to basically a sentence that would or could possibly involve probation. Now that doesn't supersede the fact that he is going to get life without parole for the first degree murder, but the way she sentenced him does impact whether the state can go after him for restitution, not only for the murder charge, but then for the obstruction of justice and the improper disposal of a body. So that's what I'm gathering as far as what they were trying to ferret out about that. Now, it looks like the state doesn't have any dog in this fight. They don't care how it's done. But the judge did seem to be kind of wrestling with the fact that if they do want him to pay restitution, it does seem like she does have to sentence him, in theory, to a sentence on each of those crimes that could have a potentiality for probation, although that doesn't supersede the fact that he's already going to be in life for all his life, is what I was gathering. I might have that wrong, but that's what I thought they were trying to get to.
However, if you look at the internet searches on the second, how to dismember a body, and is a hacksaw the best tool to dismember a body? It's a reasonable inference he hasn't started the action yet. And it results in the second shopping spree to Home Depot that afternoon, which means that Anna Walshe has been dead in that basement for over 24 hours. The same home his children are in, the same home the babysitter's at, the same home his mother has come to visit. And in the evening between the second and the third is when the dismemberment occurs, and on the third we see him going to dumpsters, getting rid of the remains. In the defendant's sentencing memo, and I want to note, the defendant was represented by two excellent lawyers who are titans in this industry, who I have the highest respect for. They say the Commonwealth's recommendation is inhumane.
Inhumane? What the... Get me the world's smallest violin and then smash it? Inhumane, my giblets.
I suggest that that's not the appropriate word choice. Because if we were to look at that word, I would suggest that describes the defendant's actions and the depravity of his actions of murdering his wife, dismembering her, and getting rid of her remains by throwing her away like garbage. The question might become whether or not this is a cruel and unusual punishment that the Commonwealth is recommending. And I direct your honor to one case. It's Cepulonis, Cepulonis versus the Commonwealth, 384 Mass 495 at 497. It's a 1981 case. To reach the level of cruel and unusual punishment, the punishment must be so disproportionate to the crime that it shocks the conscience and offends the notion of human dignity. I don't know if that's possible in this case, Your Honor, because human dignity was completely offended by the defendant's actions and how he treated his wife, how he disposed of her, and how he robbed her family and friends of the opportunity to bury her. There is no death certificate. The church will not allow a funeral to go on at this point in time. We are working on trying to work with the ME's office to see if we can get a death certificate to issue now, based on the conviction and based on the plea. And when I looked behind me after the closing arguments, I realized that was the closest thing that those people had come to a wake, because they never got together to mourn her. And that happened 3 years later. So with that, Your Honor, the Commonwealth does make a punishment that we recommend to you. We recognize it's harsh, but we think it's appropriate based on the facts. And I appreciate your time, Your Honor. Thank you.
Thank you.
No funeral. If they are part of a very Orthodox church, and this is, okay, speculation hat on. If they are part of a very Orthodox church, there are certain things that you can't do without a body, and certain things. I'm not a big expert, but I do know that there can be a lot of hurdles if you don't have a body, or are struggling, it's just a whole different ball game. So I know that there are a lot of different rules that I'm not aware of, but it does seem like they need some sort of death certificate or government proof of some sort. Again, not an expertologist, but I think that the state did a wonderful job there in not overly emotionally illustrating the profound impact that this case has had on the people in Anna's life. The profound realization that these people, because of, their religious beliefs, haven't had a memorial, a place to come together to grieve. I think that was very profound and eloquent, but not in a sort of tug at the heartstrings way, a very understated but powerful way to explain the loss that this case has produced, that Brian's actions produced. Let's hear whatever crap-tasticness. Let's hear the algebra of stupidity that makes this inhumane to Brian.
I'll hear from the defense.
With respect to the first-degree murder conviction, although we made it clear from our memorandum that we do object to a life without parole sentence based on state and U.S. constitutional grounds, based on the Eighth Amendment, we understand the court has no discretion. With respect to indictments 2 and 3, you do. I think inhumane is the right word, respectfully. To sentence someone to prison.
Ginger Spice, look, as a fellow, well, you look like a real redhead, but as a fake redhead, don't make us look stupid.
Posthumously to send a message is humane. It's dehumanizing him. Regardless of what happened in this courtroom, regardless of the convictions, regardless of what anyone believes about this person, he is a human. He is a father, he is a son, and he has been a friend.
And a fucktwat. No, look, this man so degraded the humanity of another person that I really don't give a crap about his humanity. There weren't people crying in Nuremberg thinking, oh, Eichmann, oh, won't someone think of Goebbels? No, I don't give two shits. Don't really care about his humanity. He is benefiting from the fact that our laws already take his humanity into account, and that we don't take him to the nearest, public area and throw, Nerf balls at him. So no, I don't give two craps in a handbasket about his humanity, because our laws are already structured with the base understanding that he is in fact a human, but he is a human that broke our social codes. And we have, a mechanism by which to separate them from our society. Now, we can make arguments as to whether the police state and the, correctional facilities are what they are intended to be and actually what they're rehabilitating. But no, we have a mechanism. Our judicial system does, at the bottom of it, understand his humanity. So I don't need to care about his humanity.
To many. The life sentence is mandatory, but to do consecutive sentences, I think, is inappropriate and is inhumane. Anytime there is a death, a murder, a loss of life, it is horrible, whether it's a loved one or a stranger. And the legislature has provided, regardless of our disagreement, that a life sentence without parole is mandatory. But that does not negate that he is a human being. And I don't think sentencing him to on and after time is appropriate. Just because you can doesn't mean you should. What he was convicted of were atrocious acts. We've heard from her family, we've heard from her friends. Their pain is unimaginable, and I'm not demeaning that, but I have the opportunity to speak for Brian today. And I'm asking the court to sentence him in line with the guidelines and with the purpose of sentencing. Punishment, justice, prevention of future crimes, consecutive sentences, that's excessive and it doesn't meet.
Punishment. There is punishment. Yes, he deserves punishment. He did atrocious. He broke the human contract. He broke the contract with humanity that we make with each other to not red rum each other, to not, hack each other up. This woman, if you have a problem with life sentences in general, that is a personal political problem you have. That is a political belief that you have, ma'am. This is not the time to be making this. It takes a certain amount of chutzpah to do this, to stand up for your principles, no matter who, no matter what schmuck is next to you. I think it's an odd hill to die on, and I don't particularly. It presupposes that our laws are inhumane, that at the bottom of it, she works for a justice system that sees every single convicted person as not a person, when our judicial system, imperfect as it is in fact the one that takes into account humanity at the base of it in all the systems that we have. It's the best one we have. And then to say that the Democratic, again, the voters decided to elect people who decided that murder, murder, you go away forever. So not only is she really against, our system, but she's against the people who voted for stricter laws against red rum. Again, if this is a deeply held belief, kudos for her for continuing to hold it when everyone's going to question it. But it's not the time.
Those needs. So I'd ask the court to adopt the defendant's sentencing recommendation.
I just want to put on the record that the defendant, in making its argument with regard to the inhumane aspect of any consecutive sentences, cited to a case in its brief, Donovan. Donovan does not apply to this case. As an initial matter, Donovan related to a larceny involving a single act that resulted in 7 different victims being victimized. The SJC, that was, I think, a 1985 case. The appellate courts in Massachusetts have long since distinguished Donovan, even in the case of larcenies, which is not the case that's before me, to recognize that even Donovan relates only to a single act case and not one with one purpose. As you could argue, there was one purpose here, but more than one discrete offense. So I'm not persuaded by the logic of Donovan, even if it applied to this case, and even if it was as broad-reaching as the defense suggests in its sentencing memo, which the court finds it is not.
The judge, much more appropriate than my double deuces. But the message is still the same. In the words of Nick, off you fuck. Spock's always been on the fence about that one. Thank you, Heidel. Have a great day. Stay safe. And I'll catch you later. I do like that the judge is sitting here and looking at all the memos and going through, and the fact that she took time to look at the Donovan case and thoroughly explain how it didn't apply here was the classiest shutdown, again, that didn't involve middle fingers. I would pay $1 to hear the thoughts inside his head. I never should have Googled, should have used Ask Jeeves.
There is no task facing a judge that is more important or more difficult than crafting an appropriate sentence. The legislature mandates that the only appropriate sentence for the jury's verdict, murder in the first degree, is life in prison without the possibility of parole. That sentence is immensely appropriate and just, given your murderous acts and the life trauma that you've inflicted upon your own children. As to counts 2 and 3, I have wide discretion in sentencing. I want to state my rationale for your sentences on those 2 counts on the record now. I have considered various factors with regard to my sentence for counts 2 and counts 3, to which you pled guilty on November 18th, 2025. Specifically, I've considered the severity of the crimes, their nature and circumstances, and your role in those crimes, the need to deter others from committing comparable crimes, and your prior criminal record, namely your federal fraud case. As to the latter, your criminal history shows a long and well-documented history of deceitful and manipulative behavior. I've considered your character or lack thereof, your behavior, and your background. With regard to the nature and circumstances of the offenses, as to indictment 002, in the approximately 4 hours of interviews spanning 4 days, you concocted a detailed, completely fabricated story of what happened to Anna Walshe on January 1st, 2023, in order to cover up your murder of her and disposal of her body. Your lies triggered a multi-day, extensive missing persons investigation. A command center was set up in Cohasset and was manned by various law enforcement, to include the Cohasset Police Department and the Massachusetts State Police. And local and Massachusetts resources were deployed to Washington, D.C. to investigate at Anna's home. Because of your lies, thousands of hours of investigative resources were wasted and diverted from other deserving cases and investigations.
No, I'm working on your soul patch. Don't move.
As to the nature and circumstances of count 3, the improper disposal of Anna Walsh's body, the seriousness of your acts cannot be overstated. Your acts in dismembering your wife's body and disposing of her remains in multiple area dumpsters can only be described as barbaric and incomprehensible. You had no regard for the lifelong mental harm that your criminal acts inflicted on your then 2, 4, and 6-year-old sons, not only in taking their mother, but also, as is specific to this charge, in never being able to properly grieve that loss, to say goodbye to their mom. And I hear today the same is equally true of a sister who never was able to say a proper goodbye to her sister, a mother who never was able to say a proper goodbye to her daughter, and many friends who had the same loss. As to indictments 2 and 3, I have considered the sentencing guidelines, the aggravating factors. There are no mitigating factors in this case. And I also
No,
sought out and
not a
considered
one.
information from the Massachusetts Sentencing Commission, again, which I shared with the parties earlier this week, in particular sentencings in 2022 and 2023 of defendants who were convicted of murder and
It was supposed to be a goatee. I was making him Satan. Look, I'm not good at computers and not great at drawing, let alone using computers and drawing, but I will get better.
or voluntary manslaughter, along with a Chapter 268, Section 13B conviction. This is not a guideline case. Finally, as to the first-degree murder conviction, I have considered the loss of the life of an innocent, remarkable woman, Anna Walshe, and its devastating impact on her children, as relayed to me in the letter from DCF, her family, as relayed to me in her sister's victim impact statement today, friends in their victim impact statements, in the community. In the trial testimony of Jem Mutlu and Alyssa Kirby, a little bit of Anna Walshe, her warm, powerful, and embracing spirit came to life in this historic courtroom. I have carefully listened to the moving victim impact statement, to the oral written sentencing arguments made by the Commonwealth and by Mr. Walshe. It's clear to me that Anna was a bright light in the lives of many people. She lifted people up. I am sure that nothing I say and no sentence I can impose, even a life sentence, will lessen the grief that Anna Walsh's family, her mother, sister, and 3 boys, extended like family, confidants, friends, and others have endured and will continue to endure. Although I consider the letter of Diana Walshe, I simply cannot reconcile the person Diana Walshe describes in her letter with the person who stands before.
Jedi Jess, if you're in here, when the letters become public, I know that the DCYF ones won't, but when the Diana Walshe letter becomes public, let me know. Hell, I'll pay to read whatever the hell Delulu Fig Newtons of ridiculousness that Brian Walsh's mom wrote. I will read it verbatim.
For me for sentence. Mr. Walshe, you can stand. Mr. Walshe, you will live with the guilt and burden of Anna Walsh's death for the rest of your life. As to count 1, the jury having convicted you of murder in the first degree, I sentence you to life in prison without the possibility of parole. As to indictment 2, lying to the police in connection with the investigation of a life felony, I sentence you to no less than 19 years, no more than 20 years, the statutory maximum, in prison to be served consecutive to the life sentence in 001. The legislature caps the maximum sentence for the improper disposal of a body at 3 years in state prison. As to indictment 003, the improper disposal of the body of your wife, Anna Walshe, I sentence you to no less than 2 years, 364 days, and no more than 3 years in state prison to run consecutive to the sentences in 001 and 002. I want to make one other notation with regard to the sentences that I'm giving today. Earlier in this case, I identified that there was an error in Mr. Walsh's III. That error persists to today. Specifically, so the record is clear, As I understand Mr. Walsh's prior federal sentence, he was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison. That sentence was to run concurrent with any state sentence that was given in this case. This morning, I asked probation to run his III again, and it is still incorrect. It is showing a 5-year probationary sentence. At my direction, the probation department in the last month, or perhaps a little bit longer, contacted the federal probation office in Boston to correct what I think is an obvious error in his III. It has not been corrected, and it stands still today as showing 5 years of probation as the sentence. To the extent that confuses anything in my sentencing, I want the record to reflect that, again, it's my understanding he was sentenced to 37 months in federal prison to run concurrent with this sentence that I'm now imposing today. Madam Clerk, you may impose the sentence.
Thank you, Your Honor. Mr. Walsh, a jury having returned a guilty verdict on charge 1, murder in the first degree, you were sentenced to the state prison for the term of your natural life. Count 2, witness intimidation, you having entered a guilty plea to that, sir, you're sentenced to 19 years, not less than 19, not more than 20 years, to run from and after your life sentence on count 1. On count 3, improper disposal of a body, you're sentenced to not less than 2 years and 364 days and not more than 3 years to run from and after the sentence on count 2. You will receive 1,076 days credit for time deemed served while awaiting the disposition of this matter. All fees and fines in this matter are waived. You're all set, Mr. Walsh. Thank you.
Thank you, counsel.
Madam Clerk.
Goodbye.
A bit anticlimactic. I do expect Mama Walsh to make rounds at some point and start the "My son was railroaded" campaign. But these are never easy to watch. I do think that Anna's sister did an incredible job trying to put words into all of the pain and heartbreak and kind of incredulity of, I mean, this case, if you were to write it like a Hollywood movie, no one would believe you. It's just too incredibly ridiculous to be real life, but it happened. And I do foresee that an appeal is coming, so I am sure that will be interesting. Now, as far as them saying that the second count was witness intimidation, the way I read that was his obstruction of justice. Now, I will have to go and look back and actually see if there was any part where he tried to intimidate a witness, but it might just be the way the statute's written. But thank you guys so much for joining me. I will give you guys the lowdown, the little bit of inside baseball. This is the first big kind of current case I've done in a good long while, so I was a bit nervous to do it all by my own self. But you guys made it a really good case to kind of get back into it. And on that note, we will be getting back into the nuclear dumpster fire that is the Nevada versus Devin Mitchell's case tomorrow. So buckle up for Friday, because between, ex ex sleeping and marrying your ex's son, all of the decapitation, and Yoko, it is the perfect case for us to do over the holidays. It is the perfect Petty Express case. So thank you so much for joining me on the Brian Walshe case. Going forward, we will probably be looking at, for the next big case, either the Courtney Clenny, which I do have a robe now, so we need to get that going. Also, I need to get another blonde wig, which, I mean, we've got the Laura Owens, and I do have a costume for that. So stay tuned. So we do have, upcoming trials, but we're going to try to catch up on some of the trials that were crazy that maybe I didn't get a chance to cover when I was covering other things. So the Petty Express is back tomorrow. Thank you so much for joining. Let me see who I can send you guys to. Because I am trying to be a professional, and Baker always does this, and he remembers every time. And without, having to actually announce it like I do to remember. I am going to go send you over to Rosalind Duke. She is over with Jay, and they are talking of the infamous Laura Owens, Speak of the Devil, and She Shall Appear. So I'm going to send you guys over there. Have a great day. Stay, cozy. I'm cold, but I'm always cold, even though it's heated up. So I'm still freezing. So I'm going to stay warm and cozy, but you guys stay warm and cozy too. And thank you for hanging out with me. Victim impact statements aren't always the easiest to watch or to interact with, but it really is kind of the respecting the humanity and the tragedies that are at the bottom of each and every one of these cases. And it's very important for me to do them, and doing them with you guys, having, chat with me makes them easier. And I think really just shows respect for the victims and the victims' families who are brave enough to share their letters and their words with us, to kind of give us their view of things. So I will see you guys tomorrow. Have a great, great rest of your day. Bye, you guys.